Welcome, everyone. Whether you are, prepping for a huge meeting today, maybe navigating a career pivot, or you are just someone who loves understanding how your own mind works, this deep dive is absolutely for you.
It really is. I'm so excited for this one.
Same here. We are jumping into some incredible source material today. We're looking at excerpts from the book Big Trust, Rewire Self-Doubt, Find Your Confidence, and Fuel Success.
And that is by behavioral researcher and peak performance educator Dr. Shadé Zahrai, written with Faisal Sokoa.
Right. And I want to set our mission for today right up front. We are not just going to sit here and toss out those shallow social media platitudes about overcoming self-doubt.
Oh, please, no, no, just fake it till you make it stuff today.
Exactly. None of that. We are actually going to deconstruct the architecture of self-trust. We're going to introduce you to the literal boardroom operating inside your brain, identify the 4 specific inner deceivers sabotaging you, and give you a toolkit to rebuild what Zahrai calls big trust.
It is a phenomenal framework, but to really get why it matters, we have to start with the story.
Yes, the hook. So I want you to imagine you are 19 years old. You are sitting in a university lecture hall on your very first day.
Talk about an intimidating environment.
Oh, totally. The class is legal jurisprudence. The air is just thick with that academic pressure.
Yeah.
Right? And all around you, classmates are tossing out complex legal jargon.
Like they've been lawyers for a decade.
Exactly. They are debating precedents with the professor. And you are sitting there, your face is flushing, your heart is hammering against your ribs.
And the full physiological panic response.
Yes. And your brain starts screaming, I don't belong here. I'm not smart enough. They made a mistake letting me in.
Which is a feeling I think literally every single person listening has felt at some point.
100%. And in this specific scenario, for the book's opening, that 19-year-old was Dr. Shadé Zahrai herself.
Right. She had enrolled in law at Macquarie University in Sydney.
Yeah, mostly because she had the grades.
Mm.
And her parents, teachers, immigrant grandparents, they all kind of gently pressured her not to waste her potential.
Which is a heavy burden for a 19-year-old.
It is. So sitting in that hall, she feels like a total fraud. The minute the lecture ends, she packs her bag, practically sprints to the department advisor's office, and just blurts out, I don't understand anything. I need to drop law.
Which, psychologically speaking, is a desperate bid for relief. She was looking for a sounding board,
Someone to just say, hey, it's okay.
Exactly. She was secretly hoping the advisor would say, it's the first day, everyone is confused, give it a few weeks.
But the advisor doesn't say that. The advisor doesn't say anything at all.
Nothing.
Not a single word. They just look at her in total silence, reach into a desk drawer, and hand her a course withdrawal form.
Oh, wow. That is brutal.
Right, a literal piece of paper confirming her worst fears. It felt like this authority figure looked at her and just saw someone who genuinely wasn't worth believing in.
That kind of silence is devastating when you are in a vulnerable state.
So defiance kicks in. Zahrai doesn't drop the class. She powers through, convinced that if she just works harder and builds a resume, the doubt will go away.
But it never does it?
Nope, it never did.
Because achievement can't cure a foundational lack of self-trust. But that awful experience became the catalyst for all the work we're unpacking today.
It really did. So let's talk about the fundamental mistake we make with self-doubt. Because Zahrai argues we are looking at it all wrong.
We really are. When you get hit with a wave of anxiety, it feels like this massive, untangleable blob of worry.
The blob.
Right. We treat it as this monolithic entity. You just say, I am an anxious person. But treating doubt as a giant, featureless blob makes it impossible to solve.
You can't dismantle a blob.
Exactly. And she uses this brilliant analogy about George de Mistral.
The guy who invented Velcro, right?
That's him. He was walking his dog in the Alps, and he noticed these incredibly annoying burrs sticking to his pants and the dog's fur.
Which most of us would just rip off and complain about.
Right. But he was an engineer, so he put one of those burrs under a microscope. And he realized it wasn't just a blob of plant matter.
It had structure to it.
Yes. It was covered in hundreds of tiny flexible hooks, perfectly evolved to latch onto loops of fabric.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
We usually think of doubt as something we just have to forcefully silence or push through. But Zahrai is saying that's the exact wrong approach. Right, pushing through just makes it stickier.
Precisely. If you just forcefully rip a burr off a delicate sweater without understanding how the hooks work, you don't fix anything.
You just tear the sweater.
You damage the underlying fabric. The harder you fight the doubt, The harder you try to forcefully fix yourself, the louder it becomes.
It creates this awful feedback loop. You get anxious about the fact that you are anxious,
Exactly. So if we want to gently unhook these burrs, we first have to understand why our brains are so obsessed with manufacturing them.
which takes us to the evolutionary trap of our own minds. Why is human biology seemingly hardwired to second-guess everything?
Well, we have to look at the origins of our cognition. Your brain, despite all its modern sophistication, is still running ancient survival software.
The caveman brain.
Right. It evolved in an environment where spotting threats immediately was literally the only metric of success.
So if you're roaming the savannah and you assume the rustling in the bushes is a predator,
Yeah,
you survive.
exactly. But if you assume it's just the wind, you get eaten.
So evolution rewarded us for finding things to be terrified of.
It prioritized negative information as a survival strategy. And back then, threats and rewards were immediate. You see a threat, you run, you survive.
An immediate return environment.
Right. The feedback loop was instant.
Huh.
But today, we live in a delayed return environment.
Because the threats aren't predators in the bushes anymore. They are like ambiguous emails from our boss.
Or working on a project for a promotion that's still a year away. Your daily efforts are totally disconnected from the ultimate payoff.
The immediate feedback loop is gone.
It's gone. And it's been replaced by a massive gaping hole of uncertainty.
And if there is one thing the human brain despises more than a predator, it is uncertainty. Right?
Oh, it cannot stand a void. The brain treats ambiguity as a mortal threat.
So what does it do when it faces that void?
It fabricates information to fill it. It defaults to its ancient programming and generates a negative story to make the environment feel predictable again.
Confabulation.
Yes, confabulation, from the Latin fabula, meaning story. Your brain is auto-completing a narrative based on your deepest fears.
It's like the early days of smartphone autocorrect.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
You know, you'd type something totally normal, and it would confidently replace it with a highly dramatic word. Our brains are emotionally autocorrecting our lives.
And regardless of whether that narrative has any basis in objective reality.
Like, the book gives this great low-stakes example. Say you get an invite to a networking event. You decline, and you tell yourself, I'm just not a people person. Small talk is tedious.
You frame it as a logical personality trait.
Right. But the confabulation, the hidden reality, is that you're just terrified of walking into a room full of strangers and being judged.
But admitting that is uncomfortable, so your brain confabulates a cleaner narrative. I don't like networking.
It gives you a rational-sounding excuse to just stay in your comfort zone.
Exactly. And this introduces a really critical mechanism in Zahrai's framework, the gatekeeper.
Oh, the gatekeeper. This concept blew my mind.
It's so important. We have this psychological filter sitting at the front door of our consciousness.
And its job is to scan the world, take in raw data, and filter it through our existing beliefs.
Yes, before it ever reaches our logical decision-making centers. And the gatekeeper operates heavily on confirmation bias.
It's actively hunting for evidence to prove your fears are right.
Dr. Zahrai shares this case study about a woman named Taylor that perfectly illustrates this.
She's the telecom leader, right?
Right. Taylor is a senior leader known as a quiet, meticulous high achiever. One afternoon, her mentor pulls her aside for some feedback.
Just normal developmental feedback.
Exactly. He says, Taylor, if you want to move up to the executive level, you need to be a bit more assertive in meetings.
Which is meant to be supportive. He wants to help her get the promotion.
That was the raw data. But by the time it passed through Taylor's gatekeeper, the message was warped.
Because her gatekeeper leaned on her deep insecurities.
Yes, it translated the feedback into a definitive verdict. You are not leadership material. You don't have what it takes.
And the really tragic part is what happens next. Once the gatekeeper locks onto that narrative, it turns into a hypervigilant defense attorney.
Building a case against herself.
Right. It starts twisting every neutral interaction into proof. If a colleague scheduled a sync and didn't invite her, her gatekeeper whispered, they are intentionally excluding you.
Your input is worthless.
Or if a manager suggested she trim a presentation, the gatekeeper screamed, you're boring them.
Even at home. A friend sends a thumbs up emoji, and the gatekeeper says, you're annoying them.
If we just pause and think about how exhausting that is for a modern professional,
It is staggering.
you are burning massive amounts of cognitive energy dissecting micro-expressions on Zoom calls or punctuation in a Slack message.
Fighting absolute phantoms.
But wait, I have to push back here. Isn't fear sometimes justified? Like, Evolution gave us this threat detection system for a reason.
Sure.
So shouldn't we pay attention to it? Let's say I have a massive presentation tomorrow, and I haven't rehearsed at all. My heart is racing. That fear isn't phantom, right? That's a
Yeah.
real warning that I'm going to embarrass myself.
That nuance is absolutely critical. We aren't trying to lobotomize the threat detection system.
Right.
We are trying to regulate it. Right now, for most people dealing with doubt, the gatekeeper is running wild, unsupervised.
So how do we know when it's doing its job versus being paranoid?
Dr. Zahrai proposes we need to invite 2 new consultants into the brain to audit the gatekeeper's work.
Okay, I'd love.
The first is the fact checker, and the second is the confidence consultant.
So when the gatekeeper pulls the fire alarm, the fact checker's job is to see if there is actually smoke.
Exactly. When your gatekeeper says, if I speak up and make a mistake, my career is over, your fact checker steps in and asks 3 questions.
What are they?
1, what objective evidence do I have that this is true? 2, what objective evidence do I have that this is not true?
Right.
And 3, what is a more balanced, realistic way to view this situation?
It forces you to separate raw data from confabulation. You realize making a mistake might be embarrassing, but it won't end your career.
And then the confidence consultant tags in.
This was such a great concept. You intentionally imagine a trusted mentor or a supportive friend sitting across from you.
And you ask yourself, what would they say about my ability to handle this?
It forcibly redirects your focus away from your perceived deficits toward your historical strengths.
But, to really understand how tools like the fact checker operate, we have to look at the entire organizational structure of the brain.
Because the gatekeeper isn't the only entity in your head.
Not at all. The gatekeeper is just working the front desk. To understand the machinery, we need to step inside what Dr. Zahrai calls the mental boardroom.
Yes, let's step into the boardroom.
Right.
This is based on Dr. Julius Kuhl's framework of human motivation, right?
It is. He's a pioneering researcher, and Zahrai takes his incredibly complex neuroanatomical research and translates it into this beautiful, accessible corporate boardroom metaphor.
Let's map out the 4 members of this board, because understanding who is at the table changes everything about how you view your thoughts.
It totally demystifies the biology of behavior. So sitting at the head of the table, we have the CEO.
The big boss.
Neurologically, this is the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. The CEO is your visionary.
Setting the goals.
Right. Their job is to maintain motivation, keep their eyes on the horizon, and ask, what is most important right now?
They are the compass. And sitting right next to them is the strategist.
Operating out of the left prefrontal cortex.
If the CEO determines what the destination is, the strategist figures out how to get there.
They are the planners, the problem solvers. They take the grand vision and break it into actionable steps.
Okay, then who's next?
Next is the automations lead. This is managed by deeper structures like the basal ganglia and the cerebellum.
This is muscle memory, right? Efficiency.
Exactly. Like when you drive to work and suddenly realize you don't remember the last 5 miles.
Oh, I do that all the time. It's almost scary.
That's your automations lead, taking over to save cognitive energy. They thrive on checklists and standard operating procedures.
And finally, sitting at the end of the table with a red pen, we have the risk analyst.
Housed in the inferotemporal cortex and the limbic system, including the amygdala,
The threat detector.
their entire existence is dedicated to quality assurance. They scan the plan and ask, what could go wrong? How will we be judged?
Now, when you lay it out like that, it sounds like a really highly functional team.
And when they are in sync, it is. When the CEO's vision is clear, the strategist's plans are logical, the automations lead is running habits, and the risk analyst is offering measured warnings.
You enter the flow state, you feel energized and capable.
But the architecture is delicate. When self-doubt kicks the door in, the communication lines sever, and you get the meltdown.
This is where we talk about Marco.
Yes. Marco is a brilliant software engineer at a massive tech firm.
And he has this dream to leave his corporate safety net and launch a startup.
He does everything right initially. Writes a business plan, builds a prototype, gets investor meetings.
He's on the edge of the diving board.
But when it's time to actually resign from his job to jump, he completely freezes. Paralysis.
That's what happened in his boardroom.
As the reality of the risk set in, his CEO got spooked. The vision clouded over. The CEO forgot why they were starting the company and just focused on losing the steady paycheck.
And when the CEO abandons their post, the strategist loses their compass.
Right. And a planner without direction just plans harder.
Marco's strategist went into absolute overdrive.
Analysis paralysis. trying to plan for thousands of microscopic, improbable variables.
Making endless spreadsheets instead of making decisions.
Exactly. And because the strategist is just churning out hypothetical reports, the automations lead is sitting idle.
There are no habits to execute.
Yeah.
So there's a huge void in the room.
And who abhors a void?
The risk analyst.
Yes. The risk analyst sees the CEO hiding under the desk, the strategist hyperventilating over spreadsheets, and the automations lead asleep.
So they grab the microphone.
They leap onto the table and start screaming, "We are going to lose everything. We will go bankrupt. Abort the mission."
It's a hostile takeover by the limbic system.
Marco wasn't lacking capability. He was experiencing an organizational breakdown in his brain.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It sounds exactly like when one department in a real company panics, the whole supply chain breaks down.
It's uncanny, isn't it?
So if a listener's sitting there realizing, oh man, my risk analyst is currently standing on the table screaming into a megaphone, how do we actually resync this board?
Well, the goal is not termination. It is demotion. You have to get the risk analyst back in their chair.
By re-engaging the rest of the board.
Exactly. Zahrai offers precise steps. First, you resuscitate the CEO. You force them to pick just one overarching priority.
You ask, what's the most important thing right now?
Right. That singular focus restores authority. Then, you unstick the strategist.
By breaking the plan down.
By breaking it into 3 ridiculously tiny steps. Not build a marketing strategy, but open a blank document.
Lower the barrier to entry.
Then you hand those 3 steps to the automations lead as a simple checklist. They love crossing things off. It builds momentum.
And what about the risk analyst?
You don't tell them to shut up. You validate them, but force them to be rational. You write down the absolute realistic worst-case scenario.
If this goes sideways, what actually happens, and how do we recover?
Once they see a mitigation plan exists, the threat level plummets and they sit down.
You prove to your nervous system that there's an adult in the room.
Precisely. But here's the thing. When the risk analyst takes over, it doesn't just send out vague memos, it speaks to you.
It uses specific voices to keep you small.
Yes. And this brings us to the jerk squad.
The 4 inner deceivers. I couldn't wait to get to this part.
This is a massive shift in how we approach this stuff. Usually we just talk about the inner critic as one uniform voice.
Right, like it's just one mean guy in there.
But Zahrai's research across thousands of professionals identified 4 distinct archetypes.
And they each use totally different, flawed logic to protect you.
They are like the world's most incompetent bodyguards.
Let's detail these 4 deceivers.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee everyone listening is going to instantly recognize which one is running their life.
Oh, absolutely. The first one is the classic judge.
The voice of relentless, unforgiving scrutiny.
It fixates on your flaws, mistakes, and the past. It has a photographic memory for every time you've stumbled.
It takes a minor misstep, like a typo in an email, and magnifies it into proof that you are fundamentally incompetent.
Dr. Zahrai shares a deeply vulnerable story about her own judge. Early in her career, she was giving a keynote to a room of tough corporate executives.
A tough crowd.
Very. She gets on stage and immediately notices a few executives in the front row with crossed arms, looking skeptical.
Now, a grounded person might just think, some people have resting skeptical faces.
But her classic judge seized the wheel. It whispered, "You are losing them. They think you're a joke."
So what did she do?
She started scrambling. She abandoned her authentic style, started using dense statistics, overly complex jargon, artificially lowering her voice to sound dominant.
Contorting yourself to win over those crossed arms.
And the irony is, the host was thrilled. The audience feedback was great.
But when she got back to her hotel room,
Sitting alone on the bed, the classic judge shredded her. It replayed every rushed sentence, whispering, "What a disaster. You exposed yourself as a fraud."
it completely discounts the positive data.
That's the judge. Now, the second archetype is the misguided protector.
If the judge focuses on the past, the protector focuses on future catastrophe.
Right. It wildly exaggerates risks to convince you inaction is the safest course. You aren't ready. You need another degree. Stay where you are.
The case study here was Vikram, the finance head.
Yes. Vikram achieved this massive career milestone, promoted to head of finance.
A decade of work paying off.
But instead of celebrating, he spirals into severe doubt. And Zahrai discovers his protector wasn't actually responding to the new job.
He was responding to a ghost.
Exactly. Years earlier in grad school, he had struggled publicly with an advanced modeling class. He felt deeply humiliated.
And the protector took that old wound and dragged it into the present.
It was terrified of him ever feeling that humiliation again. So it tried to convince him to sabotage his new promotion to stay safe.
Wow. Which brings us to the third voice, and this one is everywhere in corporate culture. The ringmaster.
The ringmaster ties your entire worth to endless productivity and achievement.
It convinces you that you are only valuable if you are working and hitting the next milestone.
It operates on a scarcity mindset. It constantly cracks the whip. The example she uses is Yin, a lawyer who sacrificed everything to make partner.
The summit of his career mountain.
But the tragedy is, the moment Yin made partner, he couldn't enjoy the victory for a single weekend.
The ringmaster reset the goalposts immediately.
It demanded he bring in more clients, bill more hours. He couldn't connect with his family. Sitting on the couch felt like a moral failure.
Trapped on an infinite achievement treadmill.
Terrified that if he stopped running, he'd be worthless.
And finally, the fourth deceiver. The neglector.
This voice craves external approval and validation. It convinces you that you're barely tolerated, and the only way to be loved is to become indispensable to everyone else.
Bending over backward for others while abandoning yourself.
Harper, the family law attorney, is the example here. She had a childhood wound from a critical mother.
So she projected that need for approval onto her clients.
She went way beyond normal duties, obsessing over their emotional states, taking any slight dissatisfaction as a personal failure, working through the night, sacrificing her health.
All driven by this subconscious hope that if she made everyone happy, she'd finally feel worthy.
What Dr. Zahrai makes so clear is the true cost of these voices. Unconscious assimilation.
Right. We don't just hear the voices. We start to believe we are the voices.
We mistake the judge's cruelty for objective self-awareness. We mistake the ringmaster's panic for genuine ambition.
We think I'm just a driven person when we're actually just running from a deceiver.
We assimilate the lie as our identity.
So what does this all mean? Let's say I'm Yin, the lawyer. If the ringmaster is the reason I got that promotion, isn't it risky to tell it to shut up? Am I supposed to just declare war on my own brain?
That is a very valid fear, but Zahrai explicitly warns against declaring war on your brain.
Okay, why?
Because if you violently silence them, you create more internal conflict. Fundamentally, they are just trying to keep you safe, even if they're misguided.
So you change your relationship to them.
Yes, you conceptualize them not as your core identity, but as overly anxious friends sitting in the passenger seat of your car.
I love that. Sometimes a passenger notices your fuel light is on, and that's helpful. But if they're screaming to swerve into oncoming traffic because of a shadow, you don't hand them the steering wheel.
Exactly. You assert your authority as the driver. You establish psychological separation.
The thought is not the thinker.
And she gives two amazing practical tools for this. The first is a visualization technique called thanks, but no thanks.
Okay, explain how this works.
It relies on the observer effect. When the misguided protector pipes up and says, "You'll humiliate yourself in this meeting," you don't argue with the logic.
You picture the thought as a baseball.
Right. Flying toward your head. You picture yourself holding a bat, taking a smooth swing, hitting the ball away, and saying out loud, "Thanks, but no thanks."
It's so elegant. By saying thanks, you acknowledge the intent. I know you're trying to protect me.
But by saying no thanks, you reject the flawed logic. I won't let you keep me small.
It creates that microsecond of space.
No.
And then you can deploy the second tool, the talk-back framework, organized around the 4 R's.
Recognize, remember, reframe, respond.
Let's walk through an example of this.
Okay, step 1, recognize. When you feel anxiety, pause and ask, which deceiver is speaking? Is it the judge, the protector, the ringmaster, or the neglector?
Just naming the archetype strips its power because you separate it from your identity.
Step 2, remember, activate the fact checker. Search your historical database for objective data that contradicts the deceiver.
Like if the protector says you can't handle a project, you deliberately remember a time you figured out a tough project 3 years ago.
Yes. Step 3, reframe. This is an empathy hack. Ask yourself, what would I tell a close friend saying these things to themselves?
You'd never speak to a friend with the venom the classic judge uses on you.
You'd offer grace. You have to turn that compassionate framing inward.
And step 4, respond.
You literally talk back. You say, "Ringmaster, I see you. I know you think we have to work the weekend, but my worth isn't tied to this spreadsheet. I'm logging off."
You establish the boundary.
And this is a crucial pivot point in our deep dive. Silencing the deceivers clears the static, but what do you play on the radio once the static is gone?
You have to replace it with a stronger foundation. The 4 attributes of big trust.
This is where we move from defense to offense. Big trust isn't blind arrogance.
It's the quiet ability to move through life freely, backing yourself without being hijacked by doubt.
It's an internal sanctuary, supported by 4 specific, trainable attributes that answer fundamental, unconscious questions.
Let's unpack the 4 pillars. Pillar 1 is acceptance.
Answering the question, am I enough?
Believing in your internal worthiness, independent of external approval.
Embracing your strengths and your quirks without hiding them. Pillar 2 is agency.
Do I trust my skills and abilities?
And agency isn't about knowing everything right now. It's the belief that you can figure things out. Resilience.
Pillar 3 is autonomy. Do I feel I can shape my path?
Taking ownership of your choices. Having an internal locus of control.
And pillar 4 is adaptability. Can I stay emotionally grounded when doubt arises?
Navigating the tidal wave of emotions without letting the risk analyst take over.
These pillars function as an interconnected system. If one cracks, the whole structure is compromised.
Let's contrast 2 professionals from the book, Shadé and Ray, to see how this works.
Sadie's story is so common. She was essentially doing a senior leader's job without the title or pay.
Her mentor pushed her to apply for the promotion, but she was paralyzed by the thought, what if they laugh at me? What if I fail?
On the surface, she lacked agency. She didn't trust her skills.
But Zahrai reveals the lack of agency was rooted in a deeper deficiency in acceptance. Deep down, she didn't believe she was worthy of being seen as a leader.
And then there's Ray, the complete opposite.
Ray is the golden boy. Fast-tracked, massive salary, top of his field. But he's profoundly miserable.
He pushes himself relentlessly, waiting for the next title to feel like he's made it.
Ray has massive agency. He knows he's highly competent, but his acceptance is near zero. His worth is completely conditional on achievement.
He is totally trapped by the ringmaster.
The goal is to cultivate all 4, because each brings a specific gift.
Acceptance brings the gift of self-forgetting. You're no longer agonizing over how you're perceived.
Agency brings inner authority. You stop comparing your journey to everyone else's.
Autonomy brings hope. You recognize your choices have impact.
And adaptability brings awe. The ability to experience life fully without being crushed by anxiety.
So if I'm understanding this, it's almost like a cross-training program for the mind.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
If my acceptance muscle is totally burned out today, like the judge is screaming at me, can I just lean heavily on my agency muscle to get through a presentation?
Yes, the source explicitly validates that. Big trust isn't about perfect balance every day.
So if self-acceptance feels impossible, you lean on agency by taking action anyway.
You say, I feel like an imposter, but objective data shows I have the skills. You act like someone who keeps going, and the action pulls the feeling along.
Understanding this intellectually is great, but big trust is a doing exercise. How do we practice this in the heat of the moment?
We have to rewire the habits. Doubt is a habit, which means trust can be a habit too.
And part of that is learning to filter our emotional responses. When you feel that knot of stress, how do you know what it means?
Zahrai breaks this into growth discomfort versus misalignment.
Growth discomfort is that natural stress when you stretch outside your comfort zone.
Right. Stepping onto a larger stage. It's not the gatekeeper telling you to stop. It's your nervous system acknowledging expansion.
You can see the long-term value in the friction, but misalignment feels hollowing.
It drains your core self. It's doing something just because you think you should, or the neglector is seeking approval.
Your body screaming that you're violating your own values.
Distinguishing those two is vital for adaptability and groundedness. Like Bruno, the startup founder.
Bruno had achieved the dream, but his adaptability was so low that minor things, like traffic, derailed his whole day.
Because he lacked groundedness, the external world dictated his reality. Groundedness trains you to treat emotions as data, not directives.
You feel the frustration of traffic, but you don't let it hijack the CEO in your boardroom.
To operationalize this, she outlines the 7 steps to big trust.
Step 1. Know where you are. Take the doubt profile assessment to see your superpowers and roadblocks.
Step 2. Picture who you want to become without the static of the deceivers.
Step 3. Pick just one attribute. Don't boil the ocean. If acceptance is low, focus only on that.
Step 4. Pick a specific problem. Not your whole career trajectory, just the habit of rewriting simple emails for 20 minutes.
Shrink the scope. Step 5. Tap the gifts. Remind yourself that acceptance yields self-forgetting.
Step 6 is the hardest. Try a practice. Commit to the thanks but no thanks tool for a week and observe the shifts.
And step 7, find your people. You need a trusted circle that reflects your capability back to you.
And as you build this big trust internally, it ripples outward into your relationships and leadership.
The tools for leaders in this book are brilliant. If you want to foster acceptance on a team, you have to model self-compassion.
Saying things like, I got that wrong, here's what it taught me. It removes the paralyzing fear of the judge from the team dynamic.
But the tool that stopped me in my tracks was for fostering autonomy. The LPB question.
It is radical in its simplicity.
When someone comes to you with a problem, you don't immediately jump in to fix it. You ask, do you need a L listening ear, a P problem staffer, or a B brainstorm buddy?
It rewires the power dynamic. It puts the locus of control back in their hands.
Let's dwell on this. Why do we default to fixing? In society, our reflex is to offer a solution.
Because the other person's discomfort makes us anxious. Fixing alleviates our own tension.
It's a self-soothing mechanism disguised as altruism.
Exactly.
And unsolicited fixing erodes their autonomy. It's like grabbing the steering wheel while someone is learning to drive.
It signals, I don't believe you are capable. Asking the LPB question treats them as a capable adult.
It's amazing how this loops back to the very beginning. When Dr. Zahrai went to her advisor at 19, she needed a listening ear or a brainstorm buddy.
Instead, she got a silent problem solver who just handed her a drop form, which temporarily crushed her acceptance.
A perfect example of how lacking awareness of these attributes causes unintended harm.
It truly is.
Well, let's synthesize this journey. We've gone from treating self-doubt as an evolutionary glitch to meeting the brain's boardroom,
To demoting the risk analyst?
and swinging the bat at the 4 inner deceivers, to building the 4 pillars of big trust.
Acceptance, agency, autonomy, adaptability.
Big trust isn't built in one grand cinematic moment. It's built in tiny daily choices. Every time you tell the classic judge, thanks, but no thanks.
And I want to leave you with a final provocative thought that builds on everything today.
Let's hear it.
We spend so much time trying to evict self-doubt from our minds, but what if we flip the script?
Flipped it how?
What if the specific flavor of your self-doubt, whether it's the ringmaster demanding perfection or the neglector demanding approval, is actually a perfect inverted map of your greatest hidden strengths?
Yeah.
Your deepest doubts are just your deepest values, crying out for your attention.
Disguised by fear.
Exactly. So the next time you feel doubt, don't run from it. Ask it what it's trying to protect. You might just find your true north.
Your doubt is the map. What an incredible shift to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this conversation has given you the practical tools to step into your own mental boardroom and take definitive charge. The next time that heavy wave of doubt hits you, do not accept the blob. Grab your microscopic lens, look for the tiny hooks, because once you see them, you have the power to unstick them. Take care of yourself, and we will see you on the next deep dive.